The JLR interview series.
Right, so it's just about midday on Wednesday, 6th of March, and I'm at reception here in Kensington in London. And today we've got a very special guest with us. His name's Bobby Sparks, and he's come over to do a gig on Friday at the Queen Elizabeth Hall. So first of all, how are you today?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So Bobby Sparks will be playing at Queen Elizabeth Hall on Friday with Lizz Wright. So it's going to be a really interesting set, and it's a nice opportunity to talk to someone who's done an amazing amount of work over the years with the likes of the late Roy Hargrove, among many others, Marcus Miller, and he's kind of branching out with his own career. So it's really nice to see when that happens. And you're a Hammond organist as well.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's always a great instrument as well, one of the very best. So, like I said, so you're playing on this Friday coming up, 8th of March?
Yes.
Right, okay. So that's with Lizz Wright and your own band, is that correct?
It's just Lizz Wright, just playing with her, and her band.
And her band, okay. So is that a small band or?
Yeah, it's a quartet. It's myself, guitarist, drummer, and bass player.
Okay. So that's good. Okay, that's good. So you're also touring, and that's kind of in conjunction with your new CD.
Yeah.
Called, I'm going to attempt to pronounce it, Schizophrenia.
That's it.
That's it. And the Yang Project.
Well, and the Yang Project.
Okay, and the Yang Project. I've listened to a few of the tracks, and it's a really interesting CD. Really lovely music, a lot of different influences in there. So can you tell the listeners about that and what inspired you to do this project?
I'm a student of music. I love every style of music. I listen to everything from classical to hip hop. I love. I tell people all the time, I love Miles Davis just as much as I love Sly Stone. I love Bob Marley as much as I love George Clinton. I love, classical music. I mean, I listen to everything from, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, to Jimmy Smith, to Jimi Hendrix, from Jay Dilla to any, to everybody, So basically, I think, and I'm into so many styles of music that I've always been into. Started out in the church. My mother was a pianist in the church. She had me listening to the traditional style of gospel music, like James Cleveland, Margaret Duro, and Glenn Burley, and songwriters like that, V. Michael McKay. And then there was another guy named Paul Lewis that turned me on to the modern side of gospel, which was like, Walter Hawkins, Edwin Hawkins, and Andre Crouch, and the beginning of the movement, which kind of leads us up to the gospel musicians of today. My father was a jazz musician, so his favorite musician was Dizzy Gillespie, and he had me listening to Count Basie and Duke Ellington, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, Miles Davis, Jimmy Smith, and also he loved the blues. So he made me listen to Albert King, B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert Collins. So I really grew up on Albert Collins. So I kind of contribute that to my musical journey. And then at 9 years old, I discovered Prince, and I became a funketeer. And so my musical journey, then I kind of got into other styles of music. And so Schizophrenia is basically a bunch of these songs, and if you listen to this song, it sounds totally different than this song.
Yeah.
and this song is totally different than this song, and this song is totally different than this song. So basically, if you listen to it, it might sound schizophrenic.
But it all makes sense.
Yes.
In the end. That's a really nice description there. And to reflect that, I mean, you've got a really diverse array of guests on the CD. So
Yes.
like, you've got Lucky Peterson on there.
Yes.
He's brilliant. He's just...
Lucky Peterson is married to my cousin, Tamala.
Okay.
So, and he also lives in Dallas, and he lives about 15 minutes from me.
Oh, okay.
15, no more than 20 minutes away.
Yeah. And also the sadly late Roy Hargrove contributed as well.
Yes, Roy Hargrove is from Dallas, Texas. He was born in Waco, Texas, but grew up. Me, him, and Keith Anderson. Keith Anderson, who was Prince's last saxophonist. He's one of my best friends. We always, when Roy would come home, we would always hang out, go to all the clubs, sit in, smash, and leave. And then around 1998, I was playing him some of my record, this parts of the Schizophrenia record, and then he was like, "Man, I want to do something like that." So out of that, we created the RH Factor, the band.
Yeah.
And then everything else became history.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's like, for someone like myself, I don't know if you'll agree or disagree, but it's getting more and more rare for artists to like have such diverse tastes, and it's reflecting their music. Because because around 2010, 2011, I saw the late George Duke at the Jazz Cafe. One of the best gigs I've ever seen. But on that night, he did fusion. He did a great fusion track. He did funk. He did some Zappa stuff. He sang. I mean, it was so many different things all in one set. Crowd going mad. It was just amazing. And so listening to this, like, Schizophrenia CD, this new CD, I'm hearing all these like inspirations.
Yeah. Well, see, everybody back then, artists like that, they were fans. They studied music. They were influenced by so many people, but they were able to create their own sound.
Yeah.
If you look at all of the great musicians, let's go back to the 1970s. Weather Report, Fusion Band, The Headhunters, Fusion Band, Return to Forever, Fusion Band, Mahavishnu, Fusion Band, even Frank Zappa, Fusion Band, George Duke and Billy Cobham, Fusion Band.
Yeah.
You had all of these fusion bands, but they all sounded different.
Yeah.
It made everybody had their personality, and even you go back to jazz. You knew Freddie Hubbard, you knew Miles Davis, you knew Lee Morgan. They were all trumpet players. But Clifford Brown, Dizzy Gillespie, everybody had their own sound. So, but nowadays it's different because of YouTube. Everybody's influenced by everybody. Where 50 years ago, 50 years ago, musicians used to have to use their imagination.
Right.
And then you had different musicians that were in a certain union. They were inspired by this person, but they never saw this person in this region.
Right.
So people like George Duke were able to use their brain, and where now I just think it's just mostly musicians just copy each other, you know. They don't even play the blues no more. Just everything is just intellectual, you know.
Well, actually, you make a good point about that, because I mean, you can have, like, Web Report's a great example, because you can have intellectual, but it can be fun.
Yeah.
At the same time. So that is true.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing where all of these groups, they had their own sound. But nowadays, nobody has their own sound.
So it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, everybody's just, if it's a fusion band, if it's Snarky Puppy, then if there's another band, they're influenced, like they might be influenced by Snarky, so they sound like a Snarky Puppy band.
Yeah.
So that means there's nobody special. That's not special,
Yeah.
That's like myself trying to play like George Duke, or me trying to play like Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
They're my favorite musicians, but I shouldn't try to play like them.
What about the what they were calling the jam band scene about 10-15 years ago? So like Brother Fleck and the Flectors, they would say came from that scene. I don't know if they did or they didn't, but they managed to get their own sound, didn't they?
They did. They were able to come up with their own sound, and it was amazing, But that's the beauty of it. I think, when bands can come up with their own sound, I think you end up with your own place in history. Because if you just sound like this person or this musician, or if you're just doing what they're doing, you have no place in history, in music history, And people always, people always wonder, like, for instance, why Sonny Stitt, one of the greatest saxophonists of all time, why he really never got his acclaim, And it's probably because he basically comes from the Charlie Parker school, basically. Or why didn't Phineas Newborn? Why wasn't he recognized as one of the greatest pianists? Well, the problem was it had already been done 20 years by Bud Powell.
I see.
The musician that does it first gets the credit. That's the guy that gets the thing in history.
Like Jacob Pastorius, taking the frets off the bass and playing fretless.
Yeah, the fretless. So he's the guy that did the fretless that way. So when everybody thinks of fretless, they think of Jaco.
Yeah. So he has his place in history.
He has his place in history. Same with Stanley Clarke. He was the first to play tenor bass.
Yes.
So he has his place in history. Anybody that comes after that, Now there were others that did the same thing, but they were able to get their language. They were able to have their place in history. Marcus Miller was able to have his sound.
Yeah.
And he became a relevant bass player for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's always a musician that creates a sound.
Yeah.
He gets the place in history, and then everybody else is just a bad motherfucker. Everybody else, you just a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were many bad piano players. Many bad piano players. But Thelonious Monk, Bud Powell created the style of bebop. So it starts with them. Then everybody else.
Yeah, the innovators.
They're innovators. But there were thousands of other piano players but they'll never be written in history because they didn't create this. Same with bass players. You know, same with drummers.
What about your instrument?
Huh?
Your instrument?
My instrument, well, I play a lot of vintage instruments. You know, I'm influenced by everybody. I'm influenced from everybody, from George Duke, Herbie Hancock, to Bernie Worrell, to Larry Dunn. I'm a student of everybody. So for me, you know, my style of music is kind of born from all 40 or 50 people that I listen to.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, just like following on from that, so you know, you mentioned to me like earlier, you've been kind of like what's the best way to put it, like a sideman.
Yes.
So now you're finally branching out.
Yes,
and you composed a lot of music as well
yes,
over the years.
absolutely. Since I was 16 years old, I was always on the road with artists, whether it was gospel, jazz, R&B, or pop. And then when I wasn't on the road, when I came home, I was always playing in the club, doing session work. So there was no time for me to work on my career. What inspired me, I was traveling with a gospel artist named Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
I was fixing to go on a tour, and I went to the record store. And I bought 3 CDs. I bought D'Angelo's first record, Brown Sugar, 1995. And I bought Marcus Miller's Tales record. And the last one was a guy named Foley.
Foley, yeah, I remember that name.
Foley played lead bass with Miles Davis.
Yeah, in the 80s.
I picked up the cover of Foley's record, and I saw this weird dude with a 4-string guitar. And I looked at this guy, I'm like, I remember seeing him play with Miles Davis. I said, man, I gotta get this, you know, because he's creative. Because for me, people that were doing creative stuff always made me want to see what they were doing. So basically, Foley, I bought these 3 CDs, and I listened to all 3 of them. But the one that intrigued me the most was Foley's record, because it was really creative. He had a lot of sound bites. The music was everywhere, and I was like, I want to do something like this. And it inspired me to be like, I want to do a record. So, you know, and then the same thing, listening to Marcus Miller's record. That Tales record was probably my favorite Marcus Miller record.
Yeah.
And it was creative, real creative like that. So I started to writing music, but I was writing while I was on the road. And so basically I started recording it in 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a long journey then.
Yes. So that was the whole journey of starting the Schizophrenia record.
Wow. Wow. So here we are.
Yes.
So you finally got it out there. So you know, hopefully it's going to get great reviews and everything.
Well, hopefully.
Well, I'll be definitely featuring some of the tracks on some of our slots, jazz, funk, and other things, the latest releases. So, you know, as you can see, there's a lot of hubbub going on. So we'll better finish up. So what I wanted to ask you is, so you're playing on Friday, Queen Elizabeth Hall, March the 8th.
Yes.
Have you got any other gigs in the UK or in
No,
Europe?
right now, I'll be playing with Lizz Wright from the next day. day after tomorrow till March the 24th. Then I go home, and then for the rest of the year I have Snarky Puppy dates. I'm a part of a band called Snarky Puppy.
Yeah, of course.
They have a new record out, and so we'll be touring that most of the year. But at the same time, I've been talking to different booking agents, and I have to get on the road with my own record. So if we can get some dates here and there, you know, we're really going to try to do that, because for me that's more important, because that's my career, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can. I mean, if you could come over and then play something like Jazz Cafe, which would be perfect, and I'll definitely be there. Definitely.
Absolutely. Jazz Cafe and all that.
Yeah.
Because I played there with everybody else.
Maybe I'll see you there when someone else is playing.
I played there with the RH Factor.
Yeah.
Played there with Marcus Miller so many times, maybe 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
You know. I played there with, I think, Layla Hathaway.
Layla Hathaway. She's a good singer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. And thanks for the interview, Jazz on the Radio.
Oh, thanks, man.
And really enjoy the performance on March the 8th.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I don't care how somebody play guitar. I want to know what they was thinking. I don't care what the notes Blackbird played. What made that nigga do that? That's what because then I can get my own note.
hi to Bobby Sparks. Bobby Sparks on keyboard. Bobby Sparks. Saxophone. Keith Anderson.
Now let's see how good you are at defending yourself.
The JLR interview series.